It was honestly that spirit of rebellion that I had. I never understood it. I always felt like there was too much of a mix and there was no personal space left anymore.
Yeah.
There was only culture, and culture not in the good sense. It was something that was very binding, that was created around people.
Yeah.
And that was something that I never agreed with. So
Right.
for me, it was always like I would always find problems in a lot of these things. I would always question authority. It's been a habit that I just haven't let go of. It gets me in trouble a lot of the time.
I can guess. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's something that I'll always question. Something that I don't agree with is something that I'm ready to question. And initially, that was a lot of rebellion. It did cause a lot of distance. But then after that, when I could include people in my rebellion, that's when I realized the change gets made.
Okay.
I could have my individual rebellion and go on to do nothing with it.
Yeah.
But when I could get people on the side of my rebellion is when I realized I could really make that change.
Hey guys, welcome to the RareErth podcast. My name is Manoj, engineer by qualification, a banker by profession, and a podcaster by passion. My goal is to really bring people who have actually charted the unconventional path, explore their learnings, and share that with you. So I'm super excited to have you join me on this show. And now let's get the show started. Welcome everybody to another episode of the RareErth podcast. My guest today is somebody very special. Generally, I do an intro after the show or I do it post-production, but this intro needs to be told in the presence of the guest. So let me just tell you about my guest today. At age 15, she started her professional business in the line of baking. She launched her own, the Sweet Retreat Cakery. She's a self-published author and she wrote her first piece when she was 9 years old. She is also co-authored 4 different books. She's a human rights activist. She is an active member of Bangalore student community and Safe Space Project. Swadhyay Publications made a list of top 50 poets in the country, and she was one of the listed members there. And she's not only doing all these things along with her busy life, but she's also a very promising student in Mount Carmel College, and she's actually pursuing journalism and English literature. Okay, and if my facts go wrong, you need to correct me. So it's a great delight and very excited to have you, Aamina, onto the show.
Thank you so much, Manoj. I'm so happy to be here.
And how are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm feeling good about this. I love a good conversation, so I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so you are 19 years old. You're the youngest guest that I have had. This is going to be quite a blast. One of the goals in this conversation today is to really get to know you so that people get to know who you are. And you're somebody with so much wide-ranging skill sets. Okay, so this is something which is not very common. And you put unnecessary pressure for the rest of the youth. So, how does youth who are actually coming out in the world and trying to, cope with just one item called studies, you're really stacking it up to another level.
I was just having a conversation with a friend over lunch now. And so some people find me a little intimidating to be around.
Right.
But all it takes is one conversation with them because it's understandable. I do a lot of things, but I'm just as basic as anyone else, really.
I know.
It's not that I'm exceptional in any way or any of that. There are a few things that I do that are different from the others, but I am just like them. And there are things that I look at other people do and I'm like, oh my God, how is she doing that? I can't dance to save my life and I can't sing. So when I look at people dance, when I look at people sing, I'm like, oh my God, I wish I could do that. So I have that in me too. When people look at me and say, oh my God, how is she doing that? I have the same kind of feeling when I do interact with some people. But I guess it takes that one conversation for people to get to know me. And yeah, after that, it's always a good time. It's just that I guess I can be a little intimidating in the start.
No, I think, honestly, all the things that we spoke about just before the show is a list of things a lot of people individually take it up as a one line of work. Be it, publishing a book in one's lifetime is an achievement. You have gone to publish 4 and then you started baking when you were 9 years old. Okay, so
when I was 7, actually.
You were 7. Okay, you're putting a lot of pressure to the kids from 7 years and up. Okay, so we definitely will dive into a little bit about how this journey started for you. I'm sure you must have spoken this in length, but we're going to keep it so that listeners can benefit from that.
Right.
And so, how did the passion for writing start?
So, from a very young age, I was looking for a sort of outlook for things that I was feeling. And I've always felt things a little deeper than people my age. From a very young age, I have been someone who thinks a little deeper, someone who feels a little deeper. And in the spaces that I was, I found that sometimes kids could be really silly and nobody really got me. I mean, everybody had that period in their life where they felt like nobody understands me, that kind of thing. That's when I started writing. I used to read a lot more when I was younger.
Okay,
And
how young were you when you started reading?
For as long as I can remember, I've been reading.
Okay.
So my mom used to take us down to the library all the time, and we would read, and then like she would read with us. Sometimes she'd ask us questions about our books and
Okay.
things like that, and then we would go pick up new books. So every week we'd go into the library to pick up
Pick
new
some
books
books,
and
yeah.
things like that. So they were all like very basic, you have your Fabulous Five and things
Right.
like that. I've been reading for as long as I could remember, but I never thought of myself as a writer until I actually got down to it. And I did start writing as a let out, and my work was very private for a long time. Nobody knew that I wrote. And
So, how you used to write in a notebook and a pen approach, or what was your
it was
way
always a notebook and pen approach because
Okay.
back when I was that young, I didn't have access to that much technology.
Right.
And I would just scribble random stuff in notebooks and sometimes pieces of paper in school on the way back home from school because it was a long journey back home. So it would just be very randomly scribbled in multiple places. And the first time that somebody did read my work, I realized that, okay, maybe I can write.
So,
And-
who was the person who read that?
This was a very old friend of mine, actually.
Okay.
And he was the first one to read my work, and he said, okay, this is good stuff, and there's a lot of things in here that I feel and I haven't been able to explain. And I said, okay, fine, my poetry is not only for me. That's when I really realized that my poetry is not only for me, and it's not something that only I can feel. It's maybe something that somebody else can feel too.
So, initially, when you started writing, it wasn't just a journaling approach or a expression, but it was poetry.
It was poetry.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, how come you got inspired to express it in the form of a poem or things like that?
I think that just had somewhat of an appeal to me. It was some sort of structure
Okay.
because all my thoughts were very ill defined. They were all over the place. So that seemed to be some structure. This is super embarrassing, but I did try to write a story.
Okay.
And it was based on my own life. I was really young at the time, so it was stupid. But anyway, so I did try to write it, but it didn't work out.
It wasn't
because,
coming out the way you wished. Okay.
And at that time I was just writing, and I think I still have a copy of it somewhere, but I'm too embarrassed to even open it and look at it. But poetry always just appealed to me. It was a lot of structure to unstructured thoughts, and poetry has always just reached me. A lot of simple things that I've read, be it online, be it in my books, it's always been that poetry's had a very special place.
You mentioned that your mom was instrumental. Mom and dad were instrumental in getting you to read books, right? So they were readers from a very early stage, or was it something they deliberately did for kids?
Mom used to read, dad not so much.
Okay.
And even now, so I focus a lot on my academics. At least I used to, constant A-star student, and every time I get my results, they would be super proud, but then dad would be like, I would pass 3 times in the marks that you've gotten. But mom used to read, dad not so much, but I think it was something more for us.
Okay.
They
okay.
would,
So you have a sibling.
I have an older brother.
Is he also equally inclined to read books like the way you are?
Oh no, he doesn't read.
Okay.
He doesn't read. He was just saying yesterday that he cannot read.
Okay.
He's much older than me, but he can read Percy Jackson. He can go back to reading those books, but other than that, you give him a serious book and he will not get through it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at 7 is when you started baking.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So tell us the story about that.
Okay, so it's a full family story. Mom used to bake for us when we were younger. There would just be simple, basic chocolate cakes or this one vanilla cake with green color and pink color. So it would be like a multi-layered cake kind of thing. And I think it was dad's birthday or there was something going on that day and I wanted to bake for him. And he really likes chocolate cake. So I wanted to make a plain chocolate cake for him. And mom was busy because my brother, being as stupid as he was back then, he had an exam the next day and he just couldn't study on his own. So mom was teaching him for some Hindi exam or something like that. And I really wanted to bake the cake. And so she said, okay, fine, go bake it.
Okay.
Go do it.
Yeah.
And I was like, me? On my own? What are you saying? And she said, you have help and I'm right here, whatever you need. And she was around a lot more than I thought she was. But at the end of it, I felt like I had made a cake on my own. And Dad came back and he was super happy. And like he was saying that that's the best cake he's ever eaten. And I was like, okay, fine. I did this all on my own. I didn't know she was guiding me all along.
Right.
That's something that I can see now. But yeah.
But you got a sense of achievement then.
Right,
Yeah.
and then after that, it felt really nice.
Okay.
And from there on, I started baking a little bit on my own. And I just took it from there. Honestly, I've just taken it one step at a time since then. I haven't trained professionally. All that I've done is self-taught. All that I know now, I've more or less learned on my own.
Do you remember your first ever client who bought a cake from you, paying the money?
I do actually.
You do?
This was back again when I was pretty young.
Okay.
And I hadn't started a professional business as of yet. And she had eaten one of my cakes when she'd come over, I think.
Right.
So this was some far off relative that I don't even recall how I'm related to her now. But yeah, she had really liked my stuff and she wanted a pineapple upside down cake for her mum.
Okay.
Because her mum loved pineapple. That's when I did my first cake. And she asked for it and I did it and I didn't even know I was getting paid for it. But
Okay. Oh, you
yeah.
were just willing to do it for her anyways.
I was like,
Okay.
yeah, anyway, family. And I'm
Right.
just starting out. And I was really young back then. And I didn't really know she would pay for it. But anyway, I did it and I got paid for it. And I'm like, okay, I can do this.
So when you got paid, what was the feeling that you had? Did you really see your enterprise growing from there?
No, actually, I was a little dumb like that. I was a little
Right.
slow. So I was very confused. I'm like, really, somebody would pay this much for that? I just do it as a hobby. I love to do it. That was enough for me.
Right.
Loving to do it was enough for me. I didn't need a monetary value
Right.
attached to it. But then I said, okay, fine. There's some value to my work. That's what I realized later, that yeah, there is some value to my work and that can definitely grow. But I didn't start professionally for a very long time even
Right.
then.
So what stopped you then?
I think I didn't really see it as an option. I was pretty young then. So if I had started by 7, I would have been around 10 then. And I didn't have access to people. And at that time, the only cakes you got were from bakeries.
Right. Yeah.
So we didn't
Yeah, there were
really
no
see-
specialty shops for cakes as many as we have right now.
And home bakers and custom cakes and things like that really weren't in then. Much later when I joined social media and I realized that there's a lot of people doing a lot of things. And one day, so May 5th is when I started.
Okay.
And
Which year? May 5th?
May 5th, I think we turned 4 this year.
Okay,
so,
okay.
Yeah,
So, 4 years back.
4 years back.
Okay.
So I was just sitting with my cousins and I was just looking at some of the cake pictures that I had. And I'm like, you know what? I should just make an account and put it out there.
Right.
And that's what I did. I didn't think about it too much. I made an account and I just started putting my work out there. And it just grew from there. I didn't have a logo. I didn't have a brand that I started with. I just put out a picture.
Right.
And that's when I realized, oh no, I have to have a logo. What am I going to put for the profile picture? And then the logo came and then the brand came and then, I started specializing in things and then the clients came and
Wonderful. Okay. What a great story. And that reminds me of, a quote that you had mentioned somewhere which said, you can always edit a bad page, but not a blank one.
Yeah.
Okay, can you, tell our listeners, what's the context of that and how it has applied for you?
Right. This comes from one of my favorite books, one of my favorite authors, in fact. So her name is Jodie Picoult, and she's a brilliant author, but not too many people know of her work. I started reading her work again when I was pretty young, and her books, they're slow, they're emotional, they're appealing, and a lot of people in the fast-paced world that we live in, a lot of people don't want that. A lot of my friends have taken her books from me, gotten halfway and said, no, this is a little slow for us. But it just had an appeal to me, her way of writing. So this is something that she said, and I guess it's something that applied to me a lot.
Okay.
Even when I was writing, and even when I'm writing now, I'm writing something that's raw, something that's emotional, and most times I don't edit my work profusely. Like I don't go
Wow.
back and
Okay, so whatever comes out.
whatever comes out, maybe a little bit of grammatical punctuation,
Right.
a little bit of edits there, but content I barely edit. What
Nice,
comes
okay.
out first comes out, and if it works for you as a reader, it does. Otherwise it doesn't. But that's just what
Okay.
it is. I just started, that gave me inspiration. I wasn't too bothered about does it rhyme, does it sound nice.
Yeah.
When after reading this quote, for me, it was like it had to be real. I just wanted it out there.
Right.
And after that, I could decide whether this is something I want to publish, something that I want to keep for me.
Yeah.
But the words just had to come out there. And after that, what happened was secondary.
Yeah, so I think the point I was coming back to was we need not be perfect. We need to just start off. So even when you started with the baking and the Instagram page,
Right.
it wasn't like you had a logo ready, you had a brand ready, you had
Right.
figured out things, but you went on to start it anyways.
Right.
And
I
then
really wasn't thinking about
Right.
it too much, and I realized that most of the best things that have come from life have come from things that weren't really planned. That just came in the spur of the moment.
Okay. And so I heard you speak that your poetry is more a written poetry, recital type. So what do you mean by that? Can you explain? Because I am getting into territory which I have no idea about, be it literature or
Right.
be it baking. So I'm going to ask you a lot of questions there.
When I started writing, it was very personal.
Okay.
It's something that I always, even when I let somebody read my poetry, I would just move away. Like I wouldn't even want to know what they thought of it. For me to be in the same room as someone reading my poetry, that was something that I wouldn't even imagine happening.
Why?
In the start, I didn't know if my poetry had any value to it. I
Okay.
was very unsure. I was just writing because I had to write. Because I had to get something out there, because it felt good to me. It was a source of comfort. That's why I wrote. So for anybody else to be reading it, it was like, okay, no, I don't know what you're going to be thinking. Is this making any sense to anyone?
Yeah, because it is deeply personal to you.
Yeah, like I just, even till now, when I've written something, and especially if I'm publishing in a magazine or something, I send it to my parents for them to take a look at it before I send it in. But I will be in the other room. I will not be in the same room as you. Finish reading, decide what you have to say, and then call me. But yeah, I've always written my poetry. I haven't read out my poetry loud. Like for me, written poetry has a voice of its own.
Okay.
I haven't attended too many open mics or anything like that. I know that my writing could have potential to be read.
No, so is there in the world of literature there is a difference between a reciting type and just a written type? Or-
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
There's not
Okay.
necessarily a difference.
So it depends. You can actually present even the written one, which you
can.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can present.
Okay. So, what was the most challenging experience when you actually started to put a book out there? I know that your mom was very instrumental in encouraging you. I think you had a thought that this is going to be a long-term project. You can never
Right.
start it early on.
Right.
And you were thinking maybe I'll shelf it till maybe 26, 25 or whatever.
Right.
But your mom had a very encouraging approach to it. Could you tell
did.
us a little more about that?
Yeah, basically this was a very casual lunch thing that I went out with my mum for.
How old were you then when this?
So I published when I was 15. So this would have been, I think, 14.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I was out with my mum for lunch and we were just talking, and I was a very deep kid back then, and I was already thinking of the future and plans and things like that. And I'm like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to study. And so I was telling her that I write and you've read some of my work, but I do want to publish a book eventually. And she hadn't read too much of my work by then.
Okay.
But then she's, yeah, okay, I want to see your work. And I said, I want to publish a book eventually. And that was a little surprising, because who thinks like that? Which 14-year-old is thinking like that?
Correct. We have people much older, so yeah.
Yeah, so she was like, a book? Really? I'm like, yeah, I want to publish, but not now. Maybe much later in life, 24, 25, 26. Sometime then is when I want to publish a book. And she's, yeah, maybe you should. And I was like, yeah, actually, are you for real? And yeah, maybe you should. And I went back home and immediately I started researching publishers. And I don't even know why I did that. I had said, let me wait till I'm much older.
Right.
But I went back home and I started researching publishers and things like that immediately. And I did send in some of my work.
Wow.
And
This is like you were so self-driven at 14 to figure out how to go about publishing a book.
it was difficult, honestly. So the
Yeah, of
first-
course. So how did you do the search? You went to like Google, or did you reach out to people that you knew?
It started with the Google search.
Okay.
And I did find a lot of publishers, and then I had Instagram, so I was looking through people who had published their poems before, and how they went about it, and I was trying to understand the process and things like that.
Right.
And there was some scope, and some people were like, no, don't publish a full book on your own. Write one piece for an anthology and see how that goes. Just test the waters first. And I said,
Right.
no. If I'm publishing, I'm going all in.
You had made up your mind about
Yeah,
that.
my first book had to be mine.
Right.
And I found a publisher, and
Just to
yeah.
pause you there, why do you think they said don't go full on and you try a piece? Why do you think they wanted you to do that?
Because I was very young.
Okay.
And it was difficult to take me seriously, honestly.
Okay,
If
okay.
somebody that young was telling you something like that.
It was a
And
business decision for them, right?
yeah, it was a big decision for them. And for my parents, it was also like, once they had read my work, my work is very vulnerable. It's quite out there. So they were like, do you want to put all of this out there?
Yeah,
Is this
yeah.
something that you're keen on? Is it something that will hold you back later? There's a lot of things to look at it from, and clouded adult perspective. But I was lucky that I didn't have that then.
Right, right.
If it was now, I would probably still be contemplating, should I publish or not? Had I pushed that decision to when I was older,
Yeah.
I know that I would never have done
Interesting. Okay. So you went on to do the research for the publisher.
it. Right.
And then, so how did you go on to publish the book?
Yeah, I found a publisher who was ready to publish the book for me. They really liked my work, and I was really excited, as was everybody else.
Yeah.
It was a really big deal. And then I realized that, so we had some friends, they were a Delhi-based publication.
Okay.
So we had some friends who went and checked out their place, and we found out that they weren't exactly what they said they were.
Claimed to be.
Yeah, and we were at the last bit of it. Like, we just had to sign a contract and go ahead with that happened, and I was really upset about the whole thing, but I was glad that we found out before we did. But
Yeah.
secretly I was thinking we should have just done it anyway. Like, I would have a book by
cares?
the end of it. Yeah. But yeah, the whole adult perspective made sense there. And then after that, we were in Sapna Book House one day.
Okay.
And I was buying books and things like that. And we saw something that said Sapna Inc. So we realized they have their own publication thing. And so mom went and asked them. She told me, you should ask them, what is this? And I'm like, no, you know what? It's okay. We'll see. So she went and asked them what it was. And they said that they publish. They also publish.
You saw a spark of hope there, like-
Yeah, and then like she picked up a card and she said, no, call them and have a conversation with them. And I did, and then we went in for a couple of meetings, and they wanted to see some of my work, and then that got approved, and then they wanted to see my first draft, and then back and forth editing, a lot of that happened. They had people give me a few cover designs which we absolutely hated, but graphic designers in the family, so my brother and this one cousin of mine
Worked on that.
they sat together, and yeah, this was the image that I had in mind. My book cover that it is right now,
Yeah.
that's an image that I always had in mind, and it inspired my title. That was something that I wanted in there that they weren't able to do, so my cousins put that together for me. It all just started coming together.
Wow, what a beautiful experience. And you got the title of being an author by age 14, right?
Yeah,
14,
15.
15, yeah. You were going to school then, right?
I was going to school
So
then, yeah.
what was the feel like when you walked into the school and you're now the author also of a book?
It was
A lot of limelight, I'm sure.
It was, and so this was, I think I was in the 10th grade by then.
Okay.
15. So yeah, I was also head girl of school.
Okay,
I was
I'm not
doing-
surprised. Okay, let's continue.
I was doing multiple things. So I think we had a break, like a summer break or some holidays going on when this came up. No, it was a December. It
Okay,
was a December.
okay.
So
Christmas break.
Christmas break.
Okay.
And the book came out then. Everyone was really excited, and we were hosting a carnival in January.
Okay.
So they let me launch my book professionally in school then.
Okay. Okay.
And they gave me some space to read one of my poem, and like I had a baking stall also. I was selling my cupcakes there, so my books were also there. So people were coming and getting their copies, and they wanted it signed, and it was honestly very overwhelming.
Amazing. It's a great story, and I can see the role your parents really played. Rather than limiting your beliefs,
Right.
there was no cap put telling that, hey, you're young, you don't
Right,
try. So
right.
they really kept it really open-ended, let you explore. So
Definitely.
I think that is amazing. And of course, you also went with that whole Josh to get it done. So great story, that bit. I had some question which I think you answered, but there is so much temptation to really dumb down things. When you go into the world of publishing something, especially content, we really want to appeal to the masses. So we want to appeal to an approach which is tried and tested. It's working model. So do you ever contend with that temptation? If you want to reach the masses, you want to really dumb down your creativity. So like, for example, now I'm creating this podcast, right? Sometimes I feel I also feel that I'm very deep thinker. So I could go into the philosophical angle with people. But I sometimes feel maybe it is too out there for people to not relate to. Maybe a very small niche group of people will relate to it. And then I had to contemplate, should I keep it a little more generic and light? Because do you have those things when it comes to your writing?
Definitely. These are conversations that I have with myself, that I have with other people, because my work, that is, somebody read this one piece of mine and they said we read it in the magazine. And it took us about 6 or 7 tries to really understand what you were trying to say. You should add footnotes. And I'm like, oh no, absolutely not. That's not happening. Even when I'm making mom read my poem, she'll read it and then she'll say, give me time. Yeah. And she will go through it. She'll examine every little bit of it and then she'll get back to me on it. I understand that some content is hard to reach some people, but I started writing as a way of feeling something. And that's not something that I want to compromise. And it is things that some other people feel too, even if it's just another person feeling it. And if they're feeling valid about feeling those things because of my work, that's okay.
Right.
I do a little bit of political content sometimes. Political content, social content and things like that. And I realized then I do have to be a little more generic and I do have to be a little more appealing to an audience that will actually read it and understand it. So if there's a message that I have to put out, I'll definitely consider going a little easy on my language, on things that I'm trying to say, the message that I'm trying to convey, but not with my poetry.
Yeah, of course, based on the subject you choose, maybe you will, make it easier for relatability. Right, that way. But otherwise, your creative aspect, you will keep it intact.
Right.
Beautiful. Okay. So even now, I think writing is a very hard thing for people. I think you have to read to feel inspired to write, I feel sometimes.
Right.
And even then, people have that blank page syndrome. So they look at a draft or a blank page, and it never happens that they are able to go with the flow.
Right.
How is it for you? What is your process like?
So it's usually just one thought that will come up somewhere, or maybe one line that I've read somewhere. Usually it doesn't take me a lot of reading to get creative.
To writing.
It's just it's just something that somebody would have said, something I would have seen. I used to draw a lot of inspiration from the beach, so I'm a total beach baby. And every time we would go on vacation, like there would just be something about the beach that would appeal to me. The first piece that I've written, Ocean Child, is so that came from there. So they're very simple things that usually go unnoticed that I pick up on, and that's the kind of inspiration that I need. Just one line, one something somewhere, and that gets me writing.
So what's your writing process? Do you have a specific time of the day that you write, or it could be anytime, anywhere?
It could really be anytime, anywhere. I don't keep a specific time to write. I don't journal. I don't write a diary, none of that. Anytime a thought comes down, I make sure to jot it down.
Okay.
And initially it would just be pen and paper, sometimes a tissue, like in a restaurant somewhere, I'll be scribbling something, or my desk in school or something like that. But now I have my phone on me most times, and it's just convenient. And especially if I'm going to be publishing these pieces, it's awfully convenient for me to have a digital version of it.
Right.
So a lot of times I do just type it out, but I always prefer to write. I have this one journal. It's my grandmom's. So there is some of her work in it, and in the start the recipes.
So hold on. Yeah. So your grandmom also used to write?
Yeah, and I found that out very recently. My grandmom was a very creative person, but unfortunately we lost her quite early. In the, I think, last lockdown is when I found out that she used to write. My mom was going over some of her stuff, and she found something and she said, "Hey, I have something to show you." And I was like, wait, what is this? And she showed me pieces of paper with something scribbled on it, and absolutely horrible handwriting, and my handwriting is horrible. So I'm like, okay, yeah, what is this? And she said, it's poetry that your Nani's written. And I was like,
wow.
And Nani was a very private person. I don't think anybody's really seen that side of her before, or any of her writing before. And I read her work and it really resonates with what I write. It's very similar to what I write.
Okay.
So I found out very recently that she used to write too, because I didn't know where my
Right.
writing germ from before that.
Right. So neither your dad or mom has any taste for writing.
Not writing particularly.
Okay, so
no.
this makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it was overwhelming, but it was really nice. It was a very nice feeling to have.
So you don't have any regimented approach to writing, or
No,
it's
I
just
don't.
you got to see the ocean and you start writing.
Right.
Okay. So do you have a note making mechanism, or do you keep notes in a certain way, or
I do actually. I'm very organized that way.
okay?
Right now in my bag, I have a weekly planner.
Wow.
I know
okay.
I don't need it, but I still have it there.
Okay. Huh.
My notes app is organized.
Okay.
There's proper notes for everything.
Okay.
Like that, I'm a very organized person, but my poetry is something that just takes away from all of that.
Mm.
As organized as the form might be, it's the most unorganized thing that's there. And that's something that really challenges me and who I am as a person, because I'm very organized as a person.
So when you're talking about the creative aspect, now do you write because you have to publish, or you write because you have to express?
I still only write because I have to express.
Okay, and
I don't work rigidly with deadlines. That's not something that I put myself to. There'll be weeks where I don't write. There'll be months that I don't write. And still that's okay. I won't push myself to write just because I have to publish.
Right,
That's
right.
not something that I'll do.
That's very hard, I feel, especially now there's an expectation built around you as a person. There's so much these new titles that you hold, and there is this untold expectation built around what you're going to produce.
Right.
So if there are these long durations of nothing getting produced, you do not feel any pressure about that?
Sometimes I do.
You do?
I
Okay.
do feel that kind of pressure. But again, it really has to come from some sort of experience, some sort of something. I can't write when there's nothing.
Yeah, you can't just force yourself to write.
And there's a lot of other things that I can do to distract people. So it's okay. Like I can make up for it with other things.
Right.
But yeah, I do feel that kind of pressure. I definitely do.
So what are you most proud of personally and professionally? So personally, in the sense you have your own world, and professionally you are
Right.
having multiple hats.
Right.
Right. So what are you really, when you look back, you feel really proud about?
Personally, I think it's the reconnect with my family.
Hmm.
Because for a long time in my life, I was very distant from my family.
Really?
Yeah.
You meaning you were a quiet child, or you were not relatable? What do you mean by that?
So I was the trouble child. Surprisingly, I was the trouble
You were the trouble child.
I was the trouble
I
child.
can't buy that.
Yeah. So my older brother was very quiet, and he was in his own shell, and he didn't really do much. I'm sure he had his own things, but nobody really heard about it. But I was the one who caused absolute scandal in the family, be it boyfriends that I was not supposed to have, or phones that I wasn't supposed to be caught with, or texting apps and texting people that I wasn't supposed to be texting or whatnot. So I was the trouble child.
Okay.
And after my brother, my parents definitely, they didn't really expect
Round.
this turnaround. So I keep telling my brother that you didn't do enough. Like, you should have laid this path for me. It would have been so much easier.
Right.
But yeah, so like I really had to break a lot of stereotypes. And considering the fact that I am a Muslim girl in a country like this and things like that, and obviously the families that we come from and the stereotypes that our culture holds for us to, I was someone who was just ready to break all of them. I didn't.
Where did you get the guts for that? I feel, especially, in certain communities, the rules are very strongly defined.
Right.
And questioning authority becomes something like a disobedience. Okay, so
And
how
that's
did
exactly
you...
why I did it. It was honestly that spirit of rebellion that I had. I never understood it. I always felt like there was too much of a mix, and there was no personal space left anymore.
Yeah.
There was only culture, and culture not in the good sense. It was something that was very binding, that was created around people.
Yeah.
And that was something that I never agreed with. So
Right.
for me, it was always like I would always find problems in a lot of these things. I would always question authority. It's been a habit that I just haven't let go of. It gets me in trouble a lot of the time.
I can guess. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's something that I'll always question. Something that I don't agree with is something that I'm ready to question. And initially, that was a lot of rebellion. It did cause a lot of distance. But then after that, when I could include people in my rebellion, that's when I realized the change gets made.
Okay.
I could have my individual rebellion and go on to do nothing with it.
Yeah.
But when I could get people on the side of my rebellion is when I realized I could really make that change.
And so you were talking about you feel a sense of pride about reuniting and connecting back with your family.
Connecting back with my family, coming to a middle ground, coming to having reasonable conversations with them, having
Okay.
that connect. Yeah, so that's something that I really hold in high regard.
Okay. And professionally, what are you really proud of?
Nothing.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
I've just done whatever I've done without thinking about it too much. And even after I've done it, I really haven't sat with it and really thought about it too much. And I guess that's what keeps me relatable to.
How do you define success? In your mind, when I say successful, what comes to your mind?
Honestly, I feel like success is very personal, and that's
Right.
something that I've always said. Initially, for me, it would just be getting my name out there, getting my brand out there, and things like that very early on, because I wanted to make a name, because that's what there were a lot of things keeping me from making that name,
Okay.
be it community, be it society, be it these values that we harbor, and all of that kept me from making a name. So initially it was like, no, I have to get my name out there. But now, and then after that, it was probably coming to peace with myself. For me, being content at the end of the day is enough. That is success enough for me. And it will change. Like,
Right.
soon enough, there will be a monetary value attached to success. There will be a lot of things that change with that, and I'm okay for my definition of success to be changing because it's personal.
Oh, beautiful answer. I really liked it. I think you kept it so flexible about success as a state of mind being completely no conflict zone within.
Right.
And then also the flexibility to change it based on in which phase of life you are living in. It could be anything. Nice. Yeah. So how much of your work is actually planned and how much is serendipity?
10% of it is planned and nothing more than that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it is just go with the flow and things happen.
It's mostly like that. It's mostly a go with the flow thing. But the social and political pieces that I
Yeah.
write are definitely planned based on events that happen. So recently I wrote something based on the hijab issue and basically the democracy that we live in and things like that. So that was something that was running on my mind. And then when the hijab issue came in, I did write a piece on that. So my social and political pieces are more planned and event based. But otherwise, I try not to bind myself with those kind of restrictions because there are a lot of expectations out there,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't want to put that on myself too.
Okay,
So.
okay. Do you experience this imposter syndrome sometimes? Do you feel that like you are not who you are? Like you're having this whole persona that you have to manage? Do you feel that?
I do actually, because especially when I hear other people talking about me, or especially when I get friendly with someone and they say that initially we were like so intimidated by you, not in a negative sense, but by the sense that no, this girl is doing so much, how do we get to
Right.
know her and things like that. So I feel like no, I'm one of the simplest person you will come across. So there's definitely that. There is some unnecessary hype around me sometimes which I don't understand. I'm like, are you sure you're talking about me? What's going on here?
Right.
So there's definitely that, and being as young as I am, that does come in the way of things sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something I'm learning to deal with.
Okay. What is something most people do not know about you?
That I'm scared of ladders.
Ladders.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Ladders really scare me, and those drain pipes when you're walking and there's those
yeah.
that you have to walk over. Like I'm frightened. Like I'm so scared of that.
Why is that? Is there a traumatizing experience that?
No, there's nothing attached to it. I just like the second I see that, I get dizzy and I'm like, I can't cross.
Okay. And you had mentioned that you started early on reading books
Right.
and things like that. We'll touch books, but before that, I want to know: are you like from Bangalore? Were you born and brought up in Bangalore, or do you have any other history to your?
No, I was born and brought up in Bangalore. I
Okay.
do have roots from Kutch though.
Okay.
A lot of my family, my community originates from there, but I'm born and brought up in Bangalore.
Okay. And then, if you were to shift to any other city or country, where would you choose to?
Honestly, I wouldn't move permanently.
Okay.
I love this place. This place is home to me, the people and all of that. But I do love to travel.
Okay.
I absolutely love to travel. So there's a long list of places that I want to see. There's Amsterdam, there's all of Europe, there's Turkey that I want to go to. There's a lot of different beaches. Give me a chance and I would see every beach possible.
I think then there will be a lot more books coming out if you're visiting beaches.
Really. I love to travel. I love to see places, but there's a lot of exciting things happening in the culinary world in Paris. So that's also something to take into consideration. And yeah, there's a lot going on, a lot of things to see, a lot of things to do, but I don't think I'd settle anyway away from home.
So coming back to Bangalore. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking about books, so what are some of the books that have shaped your thinking the most?
The thing is, I'm majoring in English,
Right.
which means I'm always reading something.
Right.
And now most times I don't have time to pick up a personal book. I'm mostly reading things in my syllabus. And I can't say that it's a single piece that shaped me.
Okay.
Mostly because half of my English department will disown me and I'm not going to score for the rest of my SEM. But
We will not release this bit of the interview, right?
Yeah, but it's, I think, mostly because every different piece means something to me. And the context in which I'm studying it. So we've done, just this last time, we've done about 20 different pieces and all of them have left me with something. So there's no one book in particular that I can say that's really shaped me.
No, so for example, not academically, early on in your life, did you have an instance where you picked up a book, it gave you a very new idea or perspective which you never thought about?
So one book like this would be The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Okay.
Which most people, it's one of the most cliche answers you will find. The most basic self-help book or whatever. This was my post-COVID period.
Okay.
I had COVID and after I was really struggling personally, professionally, all of that, maintaining relationships and things like that. And my brother handed me this book and he said, no, just read it. And I'm like, it's a self-help manual. There's no way I'm touching this. No way. But I did get down to reading it eventually. And there was something in the book that said, your identity is made up of all the little things you're willing to struggle for. And that kind of just stuck with me. That's something that stuck with me. And so that's when I had to like restructure all the things that I'm willing to struggle for.
Okay.
And do I want them to shape me? Do I want them to be a part of my personality? So that kind of changed my life. It was a very important book for me.
Okay. Any other book that comes to mind?
A lot of Jodie Picoult's work.
Okay.
Because
I wouldn't know. I haven't.
Okay, so there's My Sister's Keeper that she's written, which is a very good book.
Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of her writing, it's very slow, but it's very emotionally appealing.
Okay, okay.
So that's something that really sits with me. The quote, "You can edit a bad page, never a blank one," is from her.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
okay.
so very early on, that's something that shaped a lot of my life.
Okay. Do you read books related to baking and stuff like that? Not so much.
No,
okay,
not so
okay,
much.
okay. Do you have any original recipe of yours?
I do actually.
You do?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do. A lot of the stuff that I have, it started off from a recipe book, but I've evolved it.
Okay.
So my most basic, my chocolate cake recipe, that's mostly a base for most of the cakes that I make, is something that's evolved from a lot of work. There's a lot of add-ons from, again, Nani's recipe book. yeah. So that's something that I've worked to develop and make it my own.
Okay.
So a lot of recipes, a lot of things that I do make, there are personal touches in it, even if it's not exclusively my own.
Okay.
There's a lot of personal touches that I add to it.
Okay, okay. What is the best advice that you have ever received?
So
This is a very broad question, maybe because at different stages of life you would have had different inputs, but something which still stands out.
So there are two pieces of advice here that I've heard that just shaped my life.
Okay.
And these are not things that you'll hear people say. They're usually the opposite of what people will say. So the first thing that somebody told me is learn how to say no.
Okay.
Which became very important advice for me.
And when did you get this advice? How old were you?
I think this was not, I would have been about 16 or 17, not too far back. But since then, it's changed my life. It's changed my life because I was a big people pleaser. Like
you were the yes person.
Always the yes person.
Okay.
And then I realized that I can say no and I have the power to say no, and the power that holds is absolutely incredible. And somebody who doesn't respect that no is somebody that you don't need around.
Right.
So that's something that I learned. This was a very random person. I don't even remember who told me this.
Okay.
It just came up in a very random conversation and I don't think they meant it to be that insightful either.
But you got a moment of realization. Okay.
Yeah, the second they said, learn how to say no. And I was like, that
mic drop
statement.
moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Total mic drop moment.
Yeah.
So there was that. And the second one is something that I formulated for myself.
Okay.
It's work within your comfort zone. You don't have to work outside of your comfort zone, because everyone will tell you work outside your comfort zone,
Oh,
explore
interesting
more.
answer. Okay, yeah, tell me more.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So it's always explore more. It has to be out of the box, but you
right.
don't have to work with it outside your comfort zone.
Why did you arrive at this kind of conclusion? Were you too much out of your comfort zone, that where you felt it was too much of a stretch and I'm unnecessarily straining myself, or what
No,
caught
I
you?
think it's a really silly thing that got me to start thinking this way. But so basically, I bake, and a lot of people like fondant cakes.
Okay.
So fondant is this really, it's a sort of dough kind of thing that they put on top of cakes to make children's cakes really pretty and make like these whole, no, it's not the creamy bit.
Okay.
It's,
It's something which can give a shape to it.
yeah, they usually lay it on top of the cake and they make like figurines and things like that out
Okay.
of it.
Okay.
And I really don't fondant because it tastes really horrible. It looks really pretty, but it tastes really horrible and it's so hard to work with.
Right.
And a lot of people that would reach out, they would insist that they want fondant cakes. And
Okay.
that was something, and I did a tiny class on that, and till now I've been self-taught. So I haven't really taken any classes before, but I said for fondant, let me give it a try.
Right.
And then even after that, I was like, no, I don't want to do this. This is really something that I don't want to do. It's way beyond my comfort zone. So even now I don't do full, complete fondant cakes.
Okay.
Small bits, I don't mind. That's something that I enjoy doing. But it started from there. And then I said, no, I'm not going to do it. Whether I want to or not, it's not something that lies in my comfort zone, and it really throws me off. So I said, why should I be doing it? It started with there, and then it just started applying to a lot of things in life. And I feel like it applies to everyone, because everyone has an individual talent set. Everybody doesn't have to do everything.
Yeah.
You don't have to save the world all on your own. It's not your responsibility. You can just do one thing, or you can do nothing, or you can do everything, as long as it's in your comfort zone.
Right. Okay.
So you don't have to step out of that.
Yeah, I think this emphasis that the media or maybe what the society has created, which says you have to be out there doing the thing. You can't be sitting idle. You can't be just enjoying life. No, you got to be doing something all the time.
Right.
That really misrepresents the idea of how you can actually have a peaceful life. So this is a great point.
That's true, actually, because considering the things that I do, because I do quite a bit on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But there's some days that I will just refuse to get out of bed. I will just stay in bed all day
Right.
watching my show.
Right.
And I'll get yelled at in the evening, and then I'll be like, okay, fine, I'm going for a run. I'm not going to do anything else. I'm just going to go for a run. So that's the kind of thing. Like, the most productive people that you have, they break down. They have the days where they just need to stay in bed. They have their lazy days. Maybe they have their lazy months where they don't
Absolutely.
do anything.
Yeah.
So there's also there's that side that you don't see.
Right. Yeah. We get to see only the things which is in action all the time. Yeah.
Definitely.
Lovely. Okay. When you think of entrepreneurship, who comes to...
So again, this becomes a very family kind of question, because most of the people in my family, in my community, they're entrepreneurs. We've never really been the kind that work under other people.
Oh, so nobody
That's something that scared me. Like, working
Okay.
under someone else is something that absolutely frightens me.
So nobody is in the corporate world, or nobody is in the 9 to 5. Most of them are,
Most of them are running their own
Interesting.
businesses.
Okay.
Some of them are, like, we do have some people definitely who work in IT and
Right.
things like that. But
By the way, guys who are listening to the podcast, when she said IT, she made expression in her face. Like really a very low level kind of
no,
vibe.
absolutely not.
We don't have a video feed for this, but yeah, let me tell you.
It was absolutely not that. It's just that it really scares me.
Okay.
Like, something with so much structure and somebody dictating what you're doing and
Okay.
climbing that hierarchy and, really giving in to things that you don't want to just get on top and things like that. All of that really scares me. I think entrepreneurship for me is something that was more of a necessity, and I didn't realize. If I was thinking about it now, I would definitely still, and if I had a blank slate now and I was
Yeah.
thinking about it, I would still be thinking about how I can start working for myself, because working under someone else really frightens me.
So you never had this picture of you actually going for an interview and trying to crack the interview and work for a corporate? Ever?
Not really. No.
Interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But it may be something that I have to do in the future, because I do want to get into journalism.
Yeah.
So I might be working under people and things like that. And
Yeah.
now I'm starting to open my mind up to it a little bit. But before this, I was really scared of working under.
So you said family comes to mind when you think of entrepreneurs.
Right.
Is there anybody specific who comes to mind, or?
Not really. It's more general. And then I have my brother. So the logo that I have right now for my company and my entire branding is something that he's designed. And he started his journey with me also. Like, he designed my first first logo for my baking thing.
Right.
When I realized I didn't have a logo, and it was a bad logo. It was absolutely miserable. So there was just a bunch of, I don't know, really bright colors and just my brand name written in a really tacky font in between and things like that.
It was screaming your brand, I guess.
Really, the total opposite of it. And then after that, in between, we rebranded.
Okay. Did your brother work on that?
Yeah, he did that too.
Okay.
Yeah, he had gotten much better by then.
Okay.
And then we rebranded again recently. I think in 2019 is
Okay.
when the logo that I have now, the brand that I have now, is something we reworked on then. And he was getting really good then, and he had a good lineup of clients, and he was doing all this. And then he's, look, I'm embarrassed by your logo. We need to do something about it because I'm not taking credit for it otherwise.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, no, we do have to up my brand.
Okay.
It's a good idea. We did rework on that. And yeah, so he's been, I wouldn't say this to him in person, but he has been quite a steady inspiration.
Wow, I'm glad there was a happy ending to that bit, you know, because it started with the crash of the brand.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So he comes to mind when you think of entrepreneurship in a way.
definitely,
Okay,
definitely.
great. Are you into movies? Do you watch movies? Do you listen to music?
Oh, I do. I watch a lot of stuff on YouTube actually.
Okay.
And that's where I get a little interesting.
Okay, so do you have any favorite documentaries or videos or movies that you would like to recommend?
Definitely. I watch a lot of Anthony Padilla on YouTube. So basically, he's this one YouTuber who does a podcast, and he also does interactions with people. And I don't know how to explain this, but he does videos and interviews with people. Like, he has this one segment with 9/11 dispatchers, then he
Okay.
has something with people with PTSD, and there's a lot of things. Some of them are super fun people, some
Right.
of them are super serious. So there's that I find very interesting. I watch a lot of Vice Worldwide videos where they
Okay.
have a lot of true crime stories.
Okay.
And yeah, there's a lot of true crime, and there's the crazy world of, you have drugs and you have cults and all of that.
Okay.
And survivors of that is something that I watch a lot of. I'm quite into fashion.
Okay.
Yeah, I love fashion. So there's a lot of fashion-based content that I also watch. I love to travel. So there's definitely Yes Theory that I watch.
What are your top recommendations for fashion? Where can people check out interesting YouTube channels or people?
So there's a lot of people that I know personally
Okay.
that I see that work on the sustainable fashion journey.
What do you mean by sustainable fashion?
Sustainable fashion, so basically all that we have is extremely fast moving. All the fashion that we have, it's fast moving in the sense that very short lifespans, as well as it's really harming the environment. There's harm on the environment, there's harm on people involved in the production of these garments and things like that.
You're speaking
So-
about something like leather, or are you talking about something else?
No, even factories in general, when you have a big brand, when you
Okay.
have huge luxury brands that you're looking at, usually when you look at their production, you see the number of people exploited in the process of their production it's extremely sad to look at.
Right.
And the fashion industry itself is somehow quite exploitative. So
Okay.
you have some people who are slowing down this process, who are just taking it one step at a time, working on getting hand-woven fabrics. You have a lot of people who do their own stitching, who pay fair wages to get their stitching done and things like that. So
Okay.
I feel like that's very important. But I do also look at a lot of high fashion.
Okay.
I do look at a lot of designers, a lot of brands, a lot of bridge brands and things like that.
So is Aamina getting into fashion another line of work?
I actually, last time I did take fashion image management.
Okay.
Yeah, so fashion styling is also
Okay, guys. I think by the time this episode is out, guys, I think there will be a new line of work I will be releasing for sure. But interesting. Okay, so fashion is another.
Yeah,
Okay.
fashion, then there's a lot of travel blogs that I watch.
Okay, we could definitely add that in our show notes if you can share some of the links, or we will
Yeah.
add it so that people can benefit from
Okay,
that.
definitely.
Okay, and I think this may be a standard question you must have been asked earlier. Do you see in any specific line of work as the way you're exploring? Because the options seems multi options. It's not just one.
Right.
Journalism seems like a exciting option, but cooking, baking could be another line of work.
Right.
And then also you're involved with social causes also, right? Could you speak a little about the social cause you're involved in?
Right, that's my little way of giving back. I try. It's not always that I have time or that I am spending enough time doing this, but so I work with the Safe Space project. It was something that a friend started off,
Okay.
where we built safe spaces for survivors of sexual assault.
Okay.
And for me, that was always an important point because I saw a lot of people I know struggling to find a safe space.
Okay.
Situations do happen, and they can't always be prevented.
Okay.
We can try to prevent them, but when something does happen, what after that? Where do people find their voice again? Where do they feel worthy again?
Yeah.
She came up with the idea and we worked with that. So I basically mostly write content for them because that's something that I'm good with, and we also have one-on-one interactions with survivors and things like that.
Okay.
So that's something that's going on. And then there's Bangalore student community that I also volunteer with from time to time.
So what do you contribute there with the student community?
The student community, how this started again was in a lockdown,
Okay.
where we had the whole immigrant crisis going on, where a lot of the laborers were going back home and they were walking in the lockdowns. They wanted to get back home.
Right.
So it started as a way to help them, be it with their ticketing, their registrations, food for the journey, clothes for the journeys back home.
Okay.
And to stop people from physically walking back home, because a lot of lives were getting lost in the process. So it actually started from there, and there were a lot of youth that were volunteering.
Okay.
And that's when it grew into a kind of student community. And I've always been in the student unions in the places that I've been. So when I was in pre-university in Mounts itself, I was president there. Back in school, I was head girl. I have a general idea of how the management works and how the students work with the management, and a kind of middle ground. So wherever I can pitch in a little bit, I do pitch in. I don't volunteer as a campus ambassador or any of that.
Okay.
Because I don't like to limit myself to endorsing a single view or a single organization. That's not something that I do. So yeah, I just volunteer with them whenever I can, be it their social causes or their professional events and things like that.
The question I was planning to ask you was, do you see any specific line of work that you will be inclined towards in the years to come? Or it's a broad area, and there need not be any answer to that though.
Right. If you were asking this question, say about a year back, I would be sure about what I wanted to do, and I would refuse to move from it. But now I've been a little more forgiving of myself. And
what changed in the last 1 year then?
I realized that I can take it easy, that I've done quite a bit. And even if I do nothing but make enough money to sustain and make sure my beach holidays happen, I'm good for the rest of my life.
You're okay.
I'm okay. I don't really want anything more, but that will change. And if I do want something else, then I'll work on it then. Right now, I'm getting my degree in English literature and journalism. And I'll probably get into journalism because I do have to make some money somewhere. But and that's something that I'm also very interested in.
Okay.
So that seems like where it'll go, but I really don't know. It might not, it might, but there's still a little bit of time for me to figure that out. So I'm just going to take it as it comes.
Nice. Okay.
And figure that out.
All right. So we'll now move to our last segment, which is the rapid fire round. Okay. So the first question. What is something new happening in your life right now?
New that's happening in my life? I'm okay with doing nothing.
Okay. What's your favorite word?
Juxtaposition.
Explain.
That's something that I didn't know what it meant for the longest time, and my professors would keep using it all the time.
Yeah.
And then I figured out what it means, and I haven't stopped using it ever since.
So what does it mean?
It's a very complex way of saying when something is opposing the other, but it's actually explaining it in that sense also.
Okay. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would that be?
Paris.
Okay, but you said you were never going to leave Bangalore.
Yeah, but rapid fire.
This is rapid fire.
I should rethink that.
What's the first thing you notice about someone when you meet them?
Usually their eyes.
Okay. If you could instantly become an expert in something, what would it be?
Dance.
Why?
Because I can't dance at all.
Okay, so you would like to learn that. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever stolen anything?
I know a couple of hearts here and there, but that's about it.
Okay. What qualities do you value in the people with whom you spend time?
Honesty, definitely. And someone who can be non-judgmental. That's very important.
Okay. Have you ever left a 1-star rating on something What did you review and why did you rate it that way?
Usually when I want to give it a 1 star, I just don't rate it.
Oh, okay. But otherwise, you always give great rating. But otherwise, if it is bad, you don't give rating at all.
Yeah, I try to avoid it.
Okay.
And especially when I have a personal bias against it.
Okay. At what job would you be terrible?
Dancing.
Okay, I can see this is your deepest desire to dance.
It's really something that I just know that I cannot do. And I would rather not, but yeah, it just gets me really
Okay, if we have any promising, choreographers listening to this, please contact to transform this belief of
Please
hers. Okay, what do you do to unwind after a long day of work?
I love tea. Yeah, so
Okay.
I drink
the Indian tea, or you have a process to your tea making?
No, I have a nice good collection of herbal teas.
Okay.
I do love like a Indian chai also.
Right.
When I'm out with my cousins and all of that. But yeah, I have a nice herbal collection of my teas, and I like that. I like long drives. I like to
Okay.
spend time with people that I know are real and that I can have a conversation with.
Nice. Okay. Do you have any annual family traditions?
Definitely Eid celebrations that we have, birthdays. So I love my birthdays. I love other people's birthdays more, but
Okay.
everyone gets really excited about my birthday, and that's really cute. So there's that.
Okay. If all the books in the world disappear except for 3, which books are you keeping?
My sister's keeper. I think mine. And definitely my English textbook that changed my life.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Okay. I never knew somebody would, really adore their textbook like so much.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm quite a nerd, really.
What is something that you have done in your life that no one would expect?
What have I done? I can't think of a single thing. That's embarrassing. I think most of the things that I've done so far, nobody really saw it coming. Now it seems okay, but
it was originally not expected.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't expected of me.
Okay.
No.
If you're banned from the internet for 2 straight months, what are some things you will do?
I'd be happy. I'd
Okay.
generally be really
Oh,
hyped.
why would you say that? Yeah.
Because I'm a little scared of technology. Like, I really use my social platforms and everything, but technology kind of scares me, and the rate at which we're advancing really scares me.
Like, what aspect of that bothers you?
The lack of real life communication that we're having, the images that we get to portray, the selective images that we get to portray, and the kind of impact that has on other people.
Yeah.
And that instant gratification that we want all the time.
Right.
Those things really bother me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. What qualities do you admire most in your parents?
The fact that regardless of whatever, like, they're really warm, they're really that kind of love is the love that I want. So
They're very non-judgmental and accepting to you?
oh, they are very
Okay.
non-judgmental. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm quite a bit to process, and they've managed to process that. So big shout out to them.
Wonderful. You did great in your rapid fire round. I really enjoyed some of the answers that you gave. So thank you. This was a fun conversation. I know there are a lot of areas and segments that we didn't dive into. Probably we could plan a round 2 with you on that.
Definitely.
But this was really interesting to get a glimpse of your world, what you do. Where can people, find you? What are your social handles?
So there's Instagram, and it's Aamina with 4 A's, 1 M, 2 I's, N, and 4 more A's. There's a lot of A's there.
Right.
And there's my email, aamina.azhar@yahoo.in.
You want to give your email out? It'll be
that's
it'll be
okay.
flooded in case this episode goes viral. So, but yeah, sure, it's your choice.
So
Okay.
there's my Instagram and there's my email. Drop me an email anytime and we'll
Okay.
follow up from there.
Is there any final thoughts that you want to share?
Just that this conversation was really lovely and it was nice. I got to know a little more about myself, and I'm sure a lot of people who are a little intimidated by me will get to see a little more human side to me.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to that, and I really love this platform that you've built. It's really great, and I'm so happy to have been on here.
Thank you. This was a total refresher for me, because you're the youngest one who's come to my podcast.
Okay.
And you are so multi-talented, and you earned it. You really worked hard and you really earned. And I do not see, like, you're sitting right in person in front of me.
Right.
I do not see an element of stress in you because you're managing these things. So it is
Right.
like so much natural. So it's so beautiful, really. I really appreciate, and I wish more people get to see the real you. and get a glimpse of who you are and the kind of person you are, and get a little energy rubbed off so that they also feel inspired to do something, fantastic, which they enjoy in their life. Okay, so thank you, and this was a blast, and we shall connect soon then.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Manoj. This was super fun.
I hope you enjoyed the show. All the key points discussed will be available in the show notes section at www.rareearth.com. That is RareErth.com. Thank you for listening to this podcast. If you really enjoyed, please do give me your feedback, review, and rate on iTunes or any listening app of your choice. Do subscribe and share. Thank you.